So one order from yesterday was Chief Justice Roberts indefinitely blocked the court order which required the Trump regime to bring Kilmar Abrego Garcia back to the United States. The Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals called Donald Trump's behavior unconscionable, including a Reagan-appointed judge and a unanimous 3-0 panel. Then the district court judge before that, Judge Zenas, agreed or ruled, bring back Abrego Garcia now. Trump appealed to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court basically said, for now, you don't have to bring him back, Donald. There'll be briefing, but we can let this guy rot. Even though he's not supposed to be in El Salvador, we can let him rot for a little bit longer while we brief the issue. So that was one ruling. The other ruling from the Supreme Court, they vacated Judge Boasberg's order barring Trump's removal under the Alien Enemies Act. They claim they did it under venue or jurisdiction grounds, and they did say, oh, well, you know, the Trump regime, you have to give these migrants at least some reasonable notice before you send them to concentration camps in El Salvador. But how are these migrants going to quickly find lawyers within a short period of time to file habeas corpus petitions in whatever jurisdiction that they are kidnapped in before being sent to concentration camps in El Salvador? So the Supreme Court basically allowed Trump to do these kidnappings and sending people to El Salvador, which what's stopping the Trump regime from them doing that to American citizens?
Well, Lawrence, this is a landmark victory for the rule of law. And this is what we've been arguing on behalf of President Trump from day one. These are enemies of our state, of our country, and they should be deported. And what the judge ruled was going forward, from this day forward, all those planes that are gone are there. Those people are staying. So there are a lot of reasons why Americans are safer. From this point forward, the hearing will be held, it's a habeas hearing, in the court of confinement, which means in Texas. Yeah. So it will be a much faster hearing. They can't do class actions. It will be a much smoother, simpler hearing, and these people will be deported. Americans are safer, and domestic terrorists, foreign terrorists, you better look out because we're coming after you. I'd start self-deporting if I were you, because we're going to find you.
Boy, 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 boy. So once again, we got to talk about the Supreme Court handing President Trump W after W after W, which means that the liberals are going to be upset, right? Because they've been taking some L's, and they have been particularly upset about one story involving an illegal immigrant, alleged gang member, who was rightfully deported, except he was not supposed to be deported to El Salvador, but he could have been deported, just not to El Salvador, right? And they have used this issue to rally the base of lunatics to basically come out in support of having the illegal immigrant gang member flown back to the United States of America. However, the Trump administration has said, no, we're not going to do that. Okay, he was rightfully deported. And he's back home in El Salvador. And the Supreme Court agreed with the Trump administration because they basically said that, hey, you don't have to bring back the illegals who you deported to El Salvador. But, you know, moving forward into the future, you still have to use a process, right? You still have to use due process. But you can fast track it, right? You can fast track it. And that way we can continue on using the Alien Enemies Act, which, again, has liberals very, very, very upset.
Today's episode of I Can't Stop Saying What the Fuck is to the Supreme Court, because what the fuck do you mean? We sent an innocent man, an innocent father, to a mega horrific prison in El Salvador, okay? We sent him there on an administrative error. A lower court recognized that he was sent there in error and he needs to come back, right? So that court said, hey, go pick him up. What the fuck do you mean? Our Supreme Court said, wait a minute. What the fuck do you mean? Chief Justice Roberts said, no, we're not going to get him yet. What do you mean? We sent him there illegally. So
Supreme Court just blocked the return of the Maryland man that was illegally deported to El Salvador, bro. This is just crazy. Like, what else do you guys are planning to do? Because right now y'all are really violating people's rights, bro. Just destroying families and destroying homes, bro. This is all y'all doing, bro. It's just destroying families and destroying homes. Y'all need to stop that, because if somebody was to come to your house and look at your husband and be like, oh, he's a white supremacist, let's lock him up. Oh, he's a Nazi, he's an Adolfer. We need to get him up out of here. Like, come on, y'all. Like, why is y'all? And then y'all admitted to wrongfully deporting this guy. So, Supreme Court, let me ask y'all a question. Supreme Court, if these people just admitted that they wrongfully deported this dude, right? Why in the world are you stopping the return of him? Why can't he come back?
Abrego Garcia is told that he must remain in El Salvador, the country he sought refuge to us from. He's been here since 2019, and he has maintained work. He's maintained check-ins. He has fathered a 5-year-old son. He has an American wife. By all means, he is a normal dude that should be allowed to be here in America. But when he was wrapped up in a wrongful deportation along with other people that ICE claims to be Venezuelan gang members, well, he's been sitting since March 15th down in El Salvador. Yeah, the same country he sought refuge from. And a federal judge said, hey, you have got to return this man by Monday at midnight. Well, it is Monday, and we just found out that the Supreme Court of the United States said, no, he has to stay there. For how long? I don't know. I guess until enough of us talk about it. If Abrego Garcia does get out of there, he will be the first person to ever go in as an inmate and leave that prison. I hope we can get everybody that was wrongfully sent there out. I hope that we can get places like that closed down legally.
Yeah, so you see, now you hear that. Liberals are upset, okay? They're fuming about the fact that the Supreme Court has once again sided with the Trump administration, okay? And I want to go ahead and play this clip of The View, the cackling hands on The View, reacted to this decision from the Supreme Court, because they also were advocating for the administration to bring back the illegal immigrant gang members. So without further ado, let's get to it.
Yesterday, the Supreme Court overturned a judge's decision to block the deportation of men allegedly members of a Venezuelan gang to a brutal prison in El Salvador. Now, this means the administration can continue deportations under the Alien Enemies Act, but the ruling makes it very clear that the detainees must be given due legal process before making the decision to deport them. Now, the White House is making it like it's a big win for them. They just got checked. Okay? They got checked.
Again, listen to this cope, right? You can only cope like this when you don't know what the hell you're talking about. The use of the Alien Enemies Act will definitely allow them to fast track the process, right? That's the whole point. The whole point is that we don't have to wait for the backed up court systems to deport these people. They have their so-called hearing in a special court where they can defend themselves. But once we verify that they're here legally, right? I mean, they're gone, right? They're gone. Again, we just don't have to go through the standard process that, again, takes much longer, right? We can fast track the judicial process, due process in order to get them out. Okay, we're shipping them on out. So again, Whoopi is just dumb.
Someone is paying attention, which is what we've been saying needs to happen. So go ahead.
You know, it is somewhat of a win because this act, this Aliens Act, is an act in 1800 that usually is used during war time. And it was used, we have to remember, it has such a stain on history because it was used to intern Japanese citizens here in the United States. And so anything, you know, it may feel like a win, but the fact that they're even recognizing that the executive branch has the power to do something like that under that act makes me feel squeamish. And the other thing is, you know, this is a shadow docket of the Supreme Court. This is a case that needed to go before the entire Supreme Court. There needed to be briefing, there needed to be arguments, there needed to be representation so that we had much more clarity than this sort of what they're called a procurium, you know, 4-page opinions by the Supreme Court justice. But what I will say is something that Susan Rice said, and I think we have a clip. this is not necessarily a win for the American people. But actually, I'm sorry, we have a clip from Trump who basically says, well, look what he says.
So back to El Salvador, the president there said he would be willing to take American citizens in the federal prison population. Is that one of the ideas you're going to be discussing?
Well, I love that. If we could take some of our 20-time wise guys that push people into subways and that hit people over the back of the head and that purposely run people over in cars, if he would take them, I'd be honored to give them. I don't know what the law says on that, but I can't imagine the law would say anything different.
You know what's hilarious about this, right? What's hilarious about Trump entertaining the idea of shipping American criminals to El Salvador? It's not going to happen, right? I don't think it's actually going to happen. But the left, they're going to boo-hoo whine and cry racism, right? If it did happen, they say, oh, you're trying to deport all the blacks, right? That's what they say. They say they're trying to deport all the black people out of the country. This is what they say, right? I mean, that's the hilarious part about this.
So what he's saying is people that are American citizens, even people that were born here, if they've committed a crime, he would like to send them to El Salvador, to this prison.
Okay, but
and
let's talk about the
problematic.
first part of what you were saying. And I think there's a misunderstanding, and because of the White House, the way that they are projecting it. The Supreme Court did not rule that the Aliens and Sedition Act is legal for them to be using. What they didn't rule on the legal issues. What they ruled on was that the court that had issued the injunction that had stopped the deportation flights didn't have the jurisdiction to do that. I'm sure these legal issues are going to go back to the Supreme Court and be ruled on. The problem is...
They will be ruled on, but the problem is they sort of took a pass on a shadow docket and are going to allow...
they took a pass on it. They didn't rule it.
They're going to allow them to continue using it with the caveat that it's due process.
Let's be precise that they didn't rule that the Aliens and Sedition Act is
Alien
legal.
Enemies Act.
They have to... What the problem is, though, that they're not addressing the fact that there's 238 men in the worst hellhole in the Western Hemisphere.
They know.
And that 75% of them have been found by CBS 60 Minutes to not have any criminal records. Of the 22% that do have records, it's for non-violent offenses. So when Trump says they're terrorists, they're monsters, he is lying. He is absolutely making...
Well, they're here illegally. Right? Again, that's what these people don't understand. And if you care about these people so much, then go get them. Go rescue them. Go on over there to El Salvador and talk to Nayib Bukele about letting them out. Right? Go on over there and stay. Right? Once you get over there, don't come back. Right? But I'm just saying, like, you know, to me, it's so funny how these people want to die on this hill. Okay? And it's like, bro, nobody cares. Doesn't matter if they had a criminal record. They came into the country illegally. That is the crime, right? Which is justification enough to deport them wherever the hell we want to deport them, okay? We can deport them wherever we want if they come into the country illegally. Once you come into the country illegally, you basically are giving permission to the United States government to deport you back to wherever is most convenient for us, right? So they can try to make this a sad stop story all they want, but they're not changing anybody's mind. They're definitely not changing my mind. I already said a long time ago, when these mass deportations first started happening, I was like, yep, there's going to be some stories that's going to make people uncomfortable, but I'm not going to let these people guilt trip me. I'm not going to let them try to play with my emotions. At the end of the day, I'm not naive about how life works. I'm not naive about how stuff works. At the end of the day, these illegals came into the country. Tens of millions of them came into the country with no due process. Okay, they came in illegally, right? They skipped the process, and now in order to get them out, just logically speaking, right, you're gonna have to do the same thing, right? We're not removing 10 million illegals if we have to go through every single process in order to do it. It's not gonna happen. But see, that's what they want, right? That's why they want to fight all these battles, because ultimately they know that if they can basically slow us down in the legal system, then we're not gonna be successful. And then they'll point the finger and say, "Oh, Trump really didn't deport that many people," right? Again, this is the party that support sanctuary cities. You literally support having cities that go out of their way not to help law enforcement, to undermine the federal government when it comes to mass deportations and enforcing federal immigration law. So if they don't have to play by the rules, why should we have to play by the rules? Right? See, that's what these people don't understand. That's why they don't understand their arguments don't work. You're not playing by the rules. You didn't play by the rules to let him in. We're not going to play by the rules to kick him out. It's really that simple. And you're not going to make me feel bad about it. Okay? I don't care. At the end of the day, the correct message is being sent. do not come to this country illegally, or else they're going to be severe punishment, right? You can be locked up in a maximum security prison. You will never see the light of day again if you come into this country illegally. That is the message that should be sent. That is how you stop illegal immigration. And it's working. It's working. So I don't care about your tears.
It up, and shame on the Supreme Court for not having made sure that Salvadorian father, who they admitted was a mistake sentence, was not brought back.
They should weigh in on that at some point, but I do think this is a victory in the right decision by the Supreme Court. Due process is what's key here. 97% of Americans believe that undocumented migrants who committed crimes in this country should be deported. That is a widely popular position, but they deserve their day in court. And so far, you say this every time we talk about this issue, show us the crime. Don't just tell us they're criminals. Literally just put out the White House should do this if they actually have the evidence.
Are they here illegally, yes or no? If the answer to the question is yes, they're here illegally, that's enough, right? I don't need to see anything else. I don't need to see anything else. That's what these people, that's what these fake conservatives, Republicans like Alyssa Fair Griffin don't understand. They don't understand. I don't care. If they're here illegally, they should be deported. Period. Period, poo. Right? I don't know how much clear people have to be about this.
And we have yet to see that.
Yeah. And I think the fact that Justice Kavanaugh and Justice Sotomayor both said we all agree that due process is part of this.
And that's why, for me, it is a win for us, because it was being run over roughshod. And maybe it will put a little bit of a stopgap for the next group they try to get rid of.
I'm not sure about it.
Well, we won't know until we know.
Yeah, I'm
but
not sure.
thank goodness somebody is paying attention.
Yeah.
I like the fact that they're awake. I just want people to be awake to what's going on.
This is Mega Cope right here from Whoopium. 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 This is Mega Cope, right? And ultimately, if they want to die on this hill, fine, right? I just don't think it's a good look to be boohoo whining, crying about alleged gang members, illegal immigrants, people we know who were in the country illegally, being shipped off to an El Salvadorian prison. I mean, again, they're here illegally. They should have came, and because they chose to come, hey, you made the wrong decision. There's just some decisions that, they have permanent consequences, and that was the wrong decision. And that's the exact type of message that our government should be sending to people thinking about coming to this country illegally. So it is what it is. Again, if you really feel so bad about it, go over there to El Salvador and rescue these people that you claim you care about so much. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.